Hello, my name is Russell Myers. Welcome to Issues Unite. All right, so happy holidays from Donald Trump and Nancy Pelosi. Now, I mentioned last week Trump issued a directive to the GOP to halt negotiations on a stimulus package until after the election. In doing so, he personally owned the suffering of millions of Americans until some unknown time next year. The following day, he realized just how bad of an error in judgment this was when the stock market took a nosedive. He attempted to reverse course, stating he would release funds not yet spent from the earlier stimulus package. However, rerouting those funds would require congressional approval, which has not happened and is not going to happen. Well, Nancy Pelosi was not going to be outdone on this by Trump. And all of it was a horrendous and callous decision on both sides. She had to go one better than Trump. So the Trump administration made an offer of a stimulus package totaling $1.8 trillion to include $400 a week for unemployment benefit supplements, $300 billion for state and local governments, and provisions for small businesses. Pelosi turned it down, taking the responsibility from Trump and placing it squarely on the DNC elite. As of right now, Congress is not in session. They will not be back in session until November 6th, after the election is over. On both sides of this issue, each side is attempting to use the blocking of any stimulus to deny a victory to the other side. Meanwhile, holding millions of Americans hostage for their own power play. While both Trump and Pelosi are completely willing to allow millions of Americans to face ruin just as cold weather begins and food banks will face extreme difficulties providing for people as the growing season ends. It should be noted that the GOP would be likely to reject the $1.8 trillion package, stating that it was too expensive. They barely wanted to pass a $500 billion package for something over 3 times that much. There's no way that McConnell would let it pass. He probably wouldn't even put it up for a vote. But Pelosi is making this theatrical political show of opposing Trump rather than taking the deal and then allowing the GOP to cut their own throats before the November elections, which is how many? Little over 2 weeks off now. It's less than 3 weeks. So, if no deal is reached by November 3rd, it is basically an impossibility that any stimulus is going to be reached before February of 2021. And even that is uncertain. Doesn't matter who is elected. In the meantime, eviction moratoriums are coming to an end. as will student loan payment suspensions. Many real estate equity companies are already prepared to serve eviction notices the day after eviction moratoriums end. In millions of cases, families will be evicted because they will be unable to pay the accumulated rent which has piled up and will be due immediately in a lump sum. The moratorium preventing utility shutoffs has already expired in many states, leaving the most vulnerable residents without utilities. Here in Alabama, that moratorium ended on September 30th. In many cases, residents can be evicted from rental property due to lack of utilities, in spite of any eviction moratorium still existing. Even if not evicted, millions are likely to be left with no electricity, no gas, and no water as winter comes in. There is no way to predict how long they will suffer under these conditions, or how many will not survive these conditions. So, with no stimulus being passed as of this time, and Congress being out of active session until November 6th, you know that nothing is going to be passed in November. Every day, people are becoming more and more desperate. Every day, people are going without food, possibly without utilities, without life-saving medications. When they go back in session in November, some members of Congress are going to be voted out, so they won't be in office next year. They've got no motivation to pass any stimulus package. And there's nothing, they're not suffering this. They don't care if you are suffering this. You think about this and how long this is going to go on. If you count, I mean, if a stimulus package was actually passed today, it would take 2 to 3 weeks before people received any assistance from it. It takes at least 2 to 3 weeks before that assistance reaches the people that need it. We're halfway through October. So, with nothing being passed yet, think about how long millions of Americans are going to be suffering. There are still people being laid off by the tens of thousands. 800 to 900,000 Americans per week filing initial unemployment claims. And this has not changed the labor participation rates. These are people that have been working. Maybe they've gone back to work and been laid off again. But doesn't matter. The numbers of unemployed keep on rising. This was already going to be the worst holiday season that we have seen in our lives. It was absolutely going to be, without question, the worst holiday season that we have ever seen. You think about how long this is going to go on. And people are cashing in retirement funds, retirement accounts, spending their savings. The savings of the average American middle class has just been, and that is deposited in banks, has plummeted at a record level. We're halfway through October. These people are still going to be suffering through November, December, January, and half of February. At least, at the very least. Because a lot of offices, a lot of elected officials, if they change the person that is elected, they won't take office until late January. Well, then it's going to take at least 2 or 3 weeks at that point to pass anything, and then another 2 or 3 weeks beyond that. So you're talking late January, you're talking January, you're talking actually all of February. If it takes them 2 to 3 weeks and they reach an agreement by mid-February, it will be at least the end of February, beginning of March, before any assistance gets to them. This is the worst thing that this country has been through since at least the Great Depression, but I think in many ways it is much worse. And it's going to continue getting worse. It doesn't matter who is in office. Biden said that he never would have shut down the economy. He never would have imposed the restrictions that have been in place. He would have just let you risk your lives, because that would do so much good. You know, how many hundreds of thousands more would have died? We don't know. Yeah. So if you know people personally that are suffering, do what you can to help. We have to rely on each other as much as possible, because all we are to Trump or Pelosi is just tools, weapons. They're literally using the suffering of Americans as weapons against one another for their own hold on power. They don't care. But we have to. I'm really just sick looking at what is happening right now. And there's no easy answer. There's nothing that I can do. There's nothing we can do. At some point, the dam is going to burst for this country. All right, please share this video. If you can, please donate $1 a month to help expand the channel. I know most of you can't afford $1 right now, and I understand that. So you take care of yourselves and each other. So let's all take care of one another. That's it for this one. Please click the like button, subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, and I'll see you in the next one.